2NURFM.com, a broadcast service of the University of Newcastle.
Felt as though you could reach out and touch the moon last night. It looked so close. I could see the rabbit's ears and the big cheese and all the other names that scientists certainly don't give it. Joining us in studio this morning, Professor John O'Connor to talk science. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Meryl.
The conversation we're going to have today comes as a result of me asking John, as a scientist, did he think that there were alternate universes, other planets like Earth, other beings out there? And he gave me a beautiful explanation. And we promised that we'd talk about that today. It is known as the Drake equation. What is it, John?
Well, the Drake equation is not a unique equation. There are others. There's actually another one called the Seeger equation and a few others. And they all focus on things slightly differently. But Drake was the first one to really formulate this that I'm aware of. And he was involved in the early stages of the search for extraterrestrial. So he was looking for signals from space. So he wasn't just looking to work out how many life forms there are, but basically how many out there who are transmitting and we might be able to pick up. And that's going to be a lesser number than possibly the total number of life forms out there. So he came up with an equation which basically links it to the rate of star formation. We're just going to talk about the Milky Way, our own galaxy, our own neighbourhood here, not all the 100 billion other galaxies out there. Because once you throw them in there, even very small probabilities become very real numbers. So he linked it to the rate of star creation in our galaxy, which from our current knowledge is about 7. And when he formulated this, he thought it was about 1 a year. But we actually found more recently it's 7 a year.
So to clarify that, John, there's 7 stars being created every year in our Milky Way galaxy.
Exactly.
My goodness.
But of course there's 100 billion stars in our galaxy,
Sure.
so it's a drop in the bucket. But anyway, yes, there are 7 a year. And then the fraction of those stars that have planets. Now, 20 years ago, we didn't know any star other than our own that had planets. Now they're popping up all over the place. In fact, there's more than one. So that's a dramatic change that's occurred in the last 20 years. So the fraction of those stars that have planets, the average number of planets per star having planets that can support life, they've got to be within we think that life requires water, and therefore they've got to be in that region, not too close to the sun, not too far away, that you can get liquid water. And it boils off to steam, tough. If it turns to ice, tough. So it's called the Goldilocks zone, or just right.
Is that being thrown into disarray though with the fact that they found what they thought could be examples of life on Mars that were living in sort of acidic or sort of non-aqueous?
Well, they haven't found life there for sure, but the thing is, it may have actually formed when Mars is still in the Goldilocks zone, but at a time when it had much more water. So yes, they've still got to confirm life on Mars, but Mars is still in that region. In fact, Earth is actually getting almost too close to the sun for the Goldilocks zone, so Mars is still in the right space. So there'd be no problem if we found life there. It wouldn't change things. So then the fraction of those planets which actually go on to develop life. Now, this is where we're getting to the regime where there's a lot of research because we don't know the answer to. If you have the right conditions, does life just happen spontaneously? And there's a problem there because how many times has it started on Earth? Now, we only know it started once. It doesn't seem to have started in several different ways that we know of. And, of course, what happens if you wipe out the life, as we wiped out the dinosaurs? And what's more, if we have life, is it going to be intelligent life? Dinosaurs didn't create civilizations and so forth. They just wandered around feeding. So the issue about developing civilization is another factor. And then the fraction of their existence, let's say we have a civilization, intelligent beings, over what period of time did they release signals into space?
Okay, reaching out.
Well, not even reaching out. I mean, we've been
Just
sending out
transmitting
radio signals and TV signals for years. We didn't deliberately do that, but it's approaching the neighbourhood stars with really sensitive sensors. They could pick it up, but ultimately we may stop using radio for anything, and so we go into a period where we'd go dark again. So is that time span when we would be either deliberately or otherwise sending out signals, and the lifetime of that civilization wherein it communicates into space. because civilizations, as we know from the past, they come and go. The Roman Empire, the Greeks,
the Aztecs, all of those. Yes,
they all had a lifetime. And so when you throw all those numbers together, of course, you've got some really big unknowns. What's the chance that life forms if you've got the right conditions? How long are they going to communicate? And of course, there's one other big question is it a fundamental law of the universe that when a civilization gets to a certain point, it simply destroys itself? Now, during the Cold War, with all those nuclear weapons around, we could have done that.
And people are saying with the population increasing the way it is, maybe there'll be too many of us to support.
And greenhouse gases as well. So is it a natural thing that civilizations destroy themselves before they realise they've done that? So there are a lot of unknowns in here. Now, when you throw the two extremes in, you get, of course, two extreme numbers. Now, at one end, if people take all the pessimistic views, there's one chance in a million in the Milky Way that there's life, which means we're out here on our own. If you throw all the really favourable numbers in, there's about 3 million civilizations or life forms out there on planets. 3 million planets out there with intelligent life forms on it. So you can see there's a big range there. And of course, if we go to the 80 billion galaxies, both of those numbers still become realistic. The trouble is it's hard enough getting around our galaxy. But people have also, there are two issues that are arisen. A famous physicist, when he was discussing this, said, well, if there are 3 million out there, where are they? I mean, surely they'd have been tourists by this and they've been here.
Sounds like a true physicist, doesn't it? Show me the evidence.
And that's right. And the other question too is if there are millions out there, some of them would have been alive for 1 billion years up till now. They'd be well and truly advanced. They could be whizzing around for all we know. Why haven't we seen them? Well, there are people who would claim, yes, they've been not only seen them, but they're abducted
They've
by
had
them.
a cup of tea with them even.
Exactly. So there are still really big unknowns, and until we narrow down some of these numbers, I mean, the number of planets per star is a big change over the last 20 years. It went from who knows to a knowledge that there are 40 billion habitable planets in our galaxy.
This is the take-home lesson for young people if you're listening. Be very careful when you ask a scientist a question about other life out there, because the answer is quite an interesting one indeed. And as John said to me, I wouldn't say no and I wouldn't say yes, but I'll tell you about the Drake equation, and that's what we've heard about today. John, thank you. We'll see you in a fortnight for more things scientific.
Thanks, Meryl.
I love talking to John. It's the possibility though, isn't it? It's still the possibility that one day we will bump into someone else. Hope they're prepared to download the 2NURFM app and listen to us.